Well, good morning, everyone on the West Coast and Mountain Time Zone, and good afternoon to everyone in Central and Eastern Time Zone. This is Joseph Antel with Adjuvant Protocols for Healing. These webinars are devoted to my manual, my book of almost 500 protocols that you can apply nutrition, herbal applications, nutritional applications, and lifestyle applications for almost 500 different health challenges. These are also recorded on my YouTube channel. You can simply type in youtube.com Joseph Antel, and it should bring them up. And of course, as always, all of this is complimentary. This is my gift to all of you. And as you well know, we have been looking at a series, and I have been sharing a series on each of the 7 endocrine glands, the 7 ductless glands, and their influence throughout the human body. And this is the 6th in this series, the importance of balanced adrenal function for well-being. I have the honor and the privilege of walking a path every day. And on this path, I'm in nature, even though it is a concrete path, unless you want to get off the path. And I see different, nature speaks to me in various ways. I'm a big fan of the medicine cards and what they mean when you're in the wild, you're in someone else's environment. And this beautiful, very big, large elk. So I was 10 feet from him. There is a video. I actually got closer and he was fine with me being there. I wasn't challenging him in any way, and I was very quiet. And so I thought I would share that with you this morning because the elk energy relates to adrenal function. Elk medicine teaches that pacing yourself will increase your stamina. The inability in Western society and the knowledge of what the true pace, the accurate pace for any individual is, has largely been lost. So we see that because of that, stamina has reduced, tranquility has reduced, and the ability to move through a day has been challenged. This all has to do with adrenal function. And as we know, in this series, that we're focusing on the 7 ductless glands. Now, some of these glands have a counterpart. The adrenals counterpart is the kidneys. So there is something added to the renals as it was originally spoken of. And we'll of course, get into this. But these ductless glands are unique. From the pineal to the gonads, they carry hormones throughout the body. They are the communication network throughout the body. The nervous system brings the outer world to us. That information is taken into the hypothalamus gland as part of the brain. Some say that the hypothalamus gland is an endocrine gland. It is a neuroendocrine gland. It is not a pure endocrine gland. Other organs in the body also secrete hormones, as does the hypothalamus. So that information from the outer world is given to the hypothalamus. Then the hypothalamus is the bridge. It is the means by which the outer world is conveyed to the inner world through the endocrine system. So it's very important to remember that the nervous system and the endocrine system function as one. Now, when we look at the adrenal glands, and of course, I'm not going to read all of this. And remember that the adrenal glands tell the story of the interplay within the endocrine system. The adrenal glands have a relationship, which you will see today, with all of the other 6 endocrine glands specifically. Without these glands, the endocrine system cannot interact with each other. And that's why I didn't put that in here, but some of the readings that I've given you to review, when they have done experiments removing the adrenal glands, either the animal or the person did not do well. So this particular gland, these 2 must be functioning well. You can live well with one, but it still is challenged. And I know that I've had clients that have had kidney cancer and they have removed their adrenal glands. One case, I spoke to the surgeon before, and I said, representing this client, that we wanted respectfully for you to leave the adrenal glands. And he said, well, you don't, you have one, you have another one. But he did do it. And that was a blessing for this particular person who is still alive and well and functioning at 85 years old as a chiropractor, still going strong. The adrenal glands, also known as suprarenal glands, are small triangular shaped glands located on the top of the kidneys. The adrenal glands produce hormones that help regulate your metabolism, immune system. So here's the relationship. Here, the metabolism relates to thyroid. The immune system relates to thymus. Blood pressure relates to a couple of organs, kidney and liver, and of course your response to stress. And I'll show you its relationship to the other 6 endocrine glands as well. So I'm not going to go into the anatomy and physiology, but I would like you to read through this article as a little bit of homework at your leisure so that you fully understand. Now, most of you have had plenty of lectures on the adrenal glands, and that's good. I try to bring you current articles and information, but I also try to give you what the original teachers, the original nutritionists, the original endocrinologists were thinking. The adrenal glands produce hormones in response to signals from the pituitary gland. So here's the relationship with the pituitary gland in the brain, which reacts to the signaling of the hypothalamus. So here is this whole network where the nervous system, what is going on in the outer world, is taken into account. So, and of course, the HPA axis is now what they're teaching a lot, the um, hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, which most of you have had training in. So I'm not going to go into that in depth here. So let me get out of that. So I think you will enjoy that review. And as I said, you know, the 7 endocrine glands, which you really cannot live without these. Now, I know ovaries are removed, other glands are removed, but by and large, you cannot live well without these. Why? Because the hormones that they secrete commune and communicate with the entire body. In fact, the word hormone means I arose and set in motion. So the perfect balance throughout the body, the primary coordinator and regulator of that is the endocrine system. And remember that these hormones are primarily made of amino acids, peptides, and cholesterol. So that is important in any time you're working with someone that is on statins, the most sought after medication in the world now. It makes more money than any medication on the market, the last time I read. But blocking, when you block cholesterol, you block the ability to complete this cycle of making hormones, making them in the amount that they are needed. So always keep that in mind. If you have someone on a statin medication and they're just not getting well, well, now you know the reason why. Because they are not getting the means by which the communication throughout the body is accomplished. The balance comes. And amino acids. So we lived in a cooked food society. We actually live in a chemical culture. And so, hold on, I'm just going to mute everyone out here. Let's see. Mute all. So we live in a society that is now a chemical culture. And why do I say that? We live in a culture that is that focuses on specific hormone medications, thyroxine for the thyroid, insulin for the pancreas, cortisone for the adrenals. And why have we gotten to this point where we are dependent, so dependent on these synthetic hormones? Why can't the body produce its own naturally to cover, to assist the body in whatever it is dealing with? And it is because we have destroyed these glands over generations of or debilitated them in some way. And so we have a culture that is wired and tired, specifically addressing the adrenal, a culture of achievement, of competition, a culture of too many choices, a culture of fight or flight. We are either reacting to and fighting with one another, where none of these things should move me, or we're running away, we're avoiding. This all ties in with this adrenal energy. Now, I know a lot of you enjoy my esoteric reflections when I teach, and so these are them. This is the before the test syndrome, where a person never truly can come to rest. Peace. And therefore there is no peace, there is little peace on earth, as we see. Instead of the Mother Earth culture, utilizing our power as individuals and the collective accurately, kindness, compassion, this all focuses in the adrenals. You know, the Dalai Lama was asked once what his purpose on earth was. And I think the ones asking were waiting for this glorious, huge explanation that would take him hours. Instead, what he said, my purpose on earth is to be kind. It's about as simple as that. And so reestablishing adrenal function, and Dr. Lee makes it clear here that you must have for these ductless glands, and here are the adrenals, 3 classes of vitamins, as this reporter interpreted what Dr. Lee was saying. The 3 classes is the vitamin, the mineral, and like protein. And I have added in lifestyle, and I'll get to that in a minute, and the herb, in order to secrete their vital fluids. So why is this going on with the adrenals? Why do we live in fight or flight, by and large? Why don't we rest well? Why aren't we happy? Why do we fight with one another? Because we are malnourished. We are missing the frequencies that allows these glands to secrete their vital fluids. And if deprived, will atrophy and cease to function. That's why we have cortisone. It's used all the time. Any inflammation, if you go to a medical practitioner, most inflammations, you want to get rid of it, the patient wants to get rid of it, that's their answer. But this other side of using nutrition, of using the vitamin, mineral, and like protein and herb and lifestyle, leads to this reestablishing a focus of really knowing what success is. Success isn't about money and material things. Success in life is being available to others to help them. And that's our work. And to know that we are enough, and our ability to cope, to adapt, to have a strong constitution, to manage our personal resilience and our energy, to be less involved, all ties in with these 2 little glands that sit above the kidneys, by and large. Even the heart itself releases hormones that have an effect on the blood vessels related to the kidneys and the adrenal glands. And I've read this many times before, so I'll let you read it. And so as I've said, the other big part of this is about making a decision. People cannot make up their minds. They struggle with success, with abundance, the management of their life affairs. And this all ties in. So let's look at the nutrients. Let's look at these frequencies that are going to assist this. And by the way, Sir Robert McGarrison, who was a medical doctor, by the way, but he was knighted. He said that of perhaps equal importance to the above conclusion, evidence presented by McGarrison to the effect that the adrenals were also the first to show the effects of malnutrition. Now, on Saline River Press in the historical archives, you can read the studies in deficiency disease by Dr. McGarrison. You'll be impressed. The adrenals have shown the important role of the adrenal glands has long been recognized. The adrenals have been shown to be the first to fail under various conditions of stress, such as, wait for it, infection, burns, poisons, and toxins, as well as being susceptible to the failure from mental and physical stress. Now, remember, this was in the early 1900s that he was knighted. So this was way back. And of course, this chart, as I mentioned, the core vitamin for adrenal function is vitamin C, not ascorbic acid. Potassium is the mineral, and we'll talk about that in depth. The like gland, the like protein, is drenatrophin. And of course, licorice is well renowned for helping with adrenal function and drinking water. One of the lifestyle gifts that you can give to your clients is to just take 1 month, because most of you see most of your clients within a month's time. At least everyone should be coming into your office at least, or checking in with you once a month. Now, some don't, but I see my chiropractor twice a month. I get a massage twice a month. So is to encourage them and ask them how much water they are actually drinking. Now, some say, well, it just depends, but the rule of thumb that I follow is half your normal weight, half your high school weight in ounces. Or you can look up your height and what that normal weight should be. Half of that in ounces of water. And remember, fluoridated water is going to have a detrimental effect on the adrenals because it has a detrimental effect on the pineal gland, which they are intrinsically linked. So water, as simple as that. The protocol that I use for adrenal fatigue or restoration is, again, drenatrophin C, and you'll see a couple of other products, but the primary ones, because we can't give people everything, the primary top 4, and of course, I always add the herbal supplement if you feel that that is something that people are okay with, they're comfortable with that, is either Drenamin or drenatrophin. You notice the dosages are on an empty stomach of these two. Cataplex C, not ascorbic acid, that can be taken anytime, and Protofood. Now you notice in relationship to adrenal fatigue, I suggest a lot of Protofood, and that is true. 6 to 12 weeks of this amount, some people need them. You're going to see why that's so significant. Others, like Sue, and our blessings to Sue. She's not been well, but she's on today, and our blessings to you, dear. Yep. She loves desiccated adrenal, and as it turns out, it's in the top 5 selling products in the standard process line throughout the United States. So that's fine to use a desiccated, but remember the desiccated products do not provide that rebuilding. So, but it's okay to use that. And some teach use it temporarily. Some teach to use it ongoingly. How do you know? You can look at, which I did not put in here, the second sound in the pulmonic valve. If the second sound is higher than the first, if you're HSR people, you will see if the second sound is equal to or higher than the first, they have an adrenal issue. You apply the nutrition, then you will see that either desiccated adrenal, check them in 2 weeks. That should begin to resolve and go down. If it is an adrenal stress issue, which it is in 90% of the cases. So let's go into these. Of course, I'm not going to read all of this, but here's what Lee was thinking about drenotrophin in relationship to other parts of the body, the lungs, allergic reactions, inflammation, lack of stamina, blood pressures, and immunity. One product. So you could see how much he valued it. Let's look at what he said about vitamin C. Again, immunity, inflammation, healing, and scurvy. And last but not least, the disturbance in the sodium potassium levels. And you see this as people reach the age of 50 or older. You see imbalances in this. You know how you can tell? It's simple. You have a fast food or go out to a restaurant. Fine. The next day, are your hands swollen? Are your clients holding a lot of fluid in their tissues, in their ankles, their legs, or just their hands? You will know for sure by this physical observation. It's very simple that their adrenals are not functioning or their face is puffy. The adrenals are not functioning to their optimum because the adrenals, which we'll talk about in a second, have a relationship specifically. They are the gland that that realizes and affects the balance between potassium and sodium. Sodium should be in the blood, potassium should be in the tissue. And if it's the other way around, then if you have too much potassium in the blood, you can get agitation in people. If you have too much sodium in the tissues, you get this simple indication through this simple test of swelling. That's how you know. One of the first things that John Courtney taught me was, Joe, the individual that's a high achiever, they can't rest, they can't relax. They need Cataplex G. I said, how do you know if a person needs G or B? Now, of course, we can tell by the heart sound recorder, and both of these overlap. Some people that need B, you could give them G. Some people that need G, you can give them B, especially the new B core. But to be specific, for the wired and tired type, the person that can never truly rest, G. And what does he say here, Dr. Lee? And people that get this sensation, this crawling sensation or the sensation in the soles of their feet. This is a central nervous system imbalance that originates in the feet. Night sweats, redness in the palms of the hands. So you can look through all of this. Digestive complaints, chronic, over the years, people with chronic, I've done all of the other things, given them pituitrophin and Zypan and AF beta food, or sometimes you just put them on G. Maybe I put them on Adrenal, which is the next product that has C and G in it. And lo and behold, their digestive complaints, that nervous indigestion, that gastritis begins to resolve when other things don't work. And of course, this is the wonderful combination of drenatrophin, G, and C. And this is why this is my favorite, because once you initiate a cycle with the protomorphogen, you are initiating a cycle of rebalancing. If the organ is high, it will bring it down. If the organ is low, it will bring it up. Self-regulation. Whenever you think of the protomorphogens, always self-regulation. Now, we are in a great time in the history of the world related to the immune system. And I want to show you what they were thinking about in the last influenza epidemic. The statement is quoted here because it is aptly illustrates the state of affairs that concerns hypoadrenia, the everyday occurrence of which had come into predominance, quite wide acceptance, as the post-influenza influential ischemia has discovered to involve the adrenals, especially during the influenza epidemic of 1918 to 1919, a predominant South American clinician. The adrenal, here's what he said, here's what he found. The adrenal insufficiency is inseparable from influenza itself. And all of us that have been listening to others talk about the cycle we're in now, how many of them emphasize first? How is their adrenal function? Now, we could say, water off a duck's back. Well, of course their adrenals are weak. No. The most important thing, what is inseparable from influenza? They knew it in 1918. The adrenal insufficiency of influenza, according to more fundamentally significant than that which may appear in all, or nearly all, they were being gracious, they weren't being arrogant, of the general infections and many forms of intoxication. Wow. I was reminded by this as I pulled out my notes. Now, this whole chapter that I'm reading quotes from, Lynn has put in for you. So it's all in, and you should read this chapter through at what they were saying. This Dr. Sargent connects certain conditions that may supervene in typhoid fever with the syndrome of hypoadrenia. This is in harmony with previous effects to prove that adrenal insufficiency may be observed in all infectious diseases, as well as all severe intoxications. So, whenever you think of, or this cycle that we find ourselves in, that we are still in the midst of, we need to add in. Now you could say, well, Joe, I have them on so much. What product? And, we could go back to Cataplex C. Let's see what he put in here. Alfalfa, mushrooms, bone marrow, and I believe now they have added in adrenal to Cataplex C. In fact, I think it's the first in the ingredient of Cataplex C. It's not how he started that out, but they have improved that. So, and so very important to realize that the adrenals are huge, and the outcome of it. Remember this article they said related to after, during, and after. The adrenals need to be supported. Overfunction of the adrenals is a real condition. Overfunction occurs quite frequently, but strangely enough, it is of little or no clinical importance. Adrenal irritability is part of the picture of hyperthyroidism. So again, here they're beginning and sympathetic atonia, which is pituitary. So here they were looking at, oh, wait a minute, the adrenals on their own are significant, yes, but not as significant as their relationship with thyroid, pituitary. And on, as you look through what they were seeing and what they were working with, you'll see that the adrenals play such a huge part in this communication, this communion throughout the body. Most of us have had personal experience with it when we have been emotionally upset, as in public gatherings where we had to take part. The symptoms of hyperadrenia are a dry mouth, circulatory imbalances, flushing and chills, temporary hypertension, internal nervousness and tremors, and abnormal perspiration. You have clients, all of you have called me about these people. This is an adrenal issue related to thyroid, related to pituitary. This is the most commonly brought to influence of emotions upon the adrenals, as explained well by Dr. Cannon. Involving the adrenals, this Dr. Kreil, I believe, considers the relationship of the adrenals to the autonomic nervous system. What focuses that is pituitary. You've heard me speak of that. Comparable with that of the brain to the cerebrospinal system. This is his reasoning as follows. The thyroid controls the metabolism, right? The accumulation of energy in the body. Okay, good. We need that relationship. And we've seen that relationship, how significant it is. If the adrenals are off, the thyroid's off. If the thyroid's off, the adrenals are off. The adrenals, brain and sympathetic system control the expenditure of this energy. Where does the energy originate? Pancreas. So here you have, which they don't talk about it here, but they talk about it in other places. Here you have, oh yes, the pancreas produces this energy called glucose, but then you need the monitors of it. You need the monitor of it in relationship to and how it's used with the thyroid, and then the expenditure of it. So more about vitamin C, because I cannot emphasize, you have this whole article by a doctor that worked with Dr. Lee. Wonderful article, but I couldn't read the whole thing to you today. Here's what they were finding. The high content of vitamin C found in the adrenals. Remember, we are the only mammals on Earth that do not make our own vitamin C. You could say, how do these other animals, how is that elk so peaceful? If you could see the video of how he paused and was eating, and I was there and another woman was there near me with a barking dog, the elk didn't even move, tranquil, paced himself, and gradually just walked away. The high content of vitamin C found in the adrenals has been widely reported. In fact, I can't even get away from this sentence. In fact, if you look at the history of other cultures in the cold part that lived and survived in the cold parts of this world, take the Eskimos. Well, there's no citrus up there. How did they get vitamin C? They ate the adrenals. That's why the first product in cataplexy is adrenal. And this is the blessing of which, unbeknownst, maybe to some. Maybe Dr. Sue and others have realized it, that when you take desiccated adrenal, you're getting C. You have to be. It's a part of it. It has been stated that the adrenals cannot produce their hormones without adequate vitamin C. And I would mention here too, I'll read on. In this respect, tyrosine, here is why I put ProtoFood in that protocol, everyone. Here's tyrosine. You can't make adrenal hormone without it. And by the way, you can't make thyroid hormone and you can't make pituitary hormone. An essential amino acid is of particular importance. Yes, you've got these clients, they're burned out, Hashimoto's, autonomic disturbances, and you've got them, you've tried, Joe, I've tried everything. Well, maybe you haven't tried tyrosine. Cataplex C is part of the mobilized by the oxidative enzyme tyrosinase. And John Courtney taught me that vitamin C should not be called, it should never be described and featured as ascorbic acid. It should be tyrosinase. This very important part of the vitamin C complex, because tyrosine, this amino acid, is utilized, it's mobilized by this part of the vitamin C complex. Tyrosine is found in mushrooms and has such a potent effect in promoting the activity of vitamin C factors. Now, he in this article wrote ascorbic acid factors, but it's not true. You cannot use a chemical that doesn't contain tyrosinase and expect to get a result. It's never going to happen. It defies the law of nature. This would indicate that tyrosine may have particular importance in regards to adrenal function because tyrosine is known to be a direct precursor of adrenaline. And as is vitamin G, which we reviewed, wired and tired people, these high achievers, these people that are A-type personalities, or paradoxine. There is your B6. Now you're tying in the B complex with this. Can't use B6 alone. Has to be in the complex. Fraction of the G complex. So when you take Cataplex G, you're getting B6, by the way. What other things did they see? Oh, liver spots. Wow. So anemias, menstrual problems. And he mentions licorice in here. So I'll let you read this through, and the regulation of sodium and potassium. The adrenals are so vitally concerned with the distribution and mobilization of various reserves in the body. You know, we're coming into this time of the year now. We're in Chinese medicine, there are 5 seasons. We're coming out of late summer, as somebody said in the beginning. Yesterday was the first day of autumn. Now we're into autumn. The temperature change, I don't know if you've noticed it. In the morning, I'm putting on my heat. At night, you know, the house gets so hot during the day, I'm putting on my air conditioner. You know, you've got this fluctuation in temperature. And it requires these reserves in my body to adapt to this. If I can't adapt to it, I'm going to get a chill, leading to other things. If you start to get chills, you better jump on it because your body's telling you you're out of sync. The endocrine system, especially, is not regulating body temperature, and it's not, the adrenals aren't stepping up to the plate. But because the adrenals are the ones that distribute these reserves to adapt to this change in temperature, big time. Now, of course, I've shown this to you hundreds of times. And this is in Judith DeCava's book through Celine Mirror Press, which all of you should be reading a little bit of this, at least a paragraph or two once a week. You will continue to reinforce what I've been teaching you and what you're practicing using standard process by reading this book. Here's the tyrosinase. Here's your other bioflavonoids, quercetin, rutin, hesperidin, all of those essential bioflavonoids for the integrity of vascular, these P factors, the K factors for the fibrin throughout the body, all related to the integrity of the vascular structure, and the J factor. Oh, what does that do? It helps the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. That's why in products like Vasculine, Lee put that C in there, along with Cataplex E and Cardiotrophin and B. And you're going to get a new, bigger tablet of that coming out soon. And so this whole area of tyrosine being the part of the amino acid of 22, this is why people age, you know. This is why our bodies break down. You've got to have 22. You can't be missing one, and especially of the essential. The essential 8 amino acids the body doesn't make. You have to get it from outside. And here is John's, after a phone call with me, he wrote an article, and here's a quote from that, because I wanted to know. I said, I need to tell doctors when I go into offices. At that time, I was doing 10 offices a day when I was young and had the strength of 10 men. Now I'm down to 5, I think. But I want to tell them what is the most important product that we make. Protofood is the most important product Standard Process makes. It's a result of many years of research and deficiency, diet, vitamins and minerals as well, but you cannot make something out of nothing. You must have in your reserves of your blood these 22 amino acids. Tissue repair, nerves, hair, bones, muscles, skin, entire body. And of course, here, now there's debate and discussion. Let's not say argument, because if we have good adrenal health, we're not arguing with each other, but we can kindly talk to each other of what is the 8 and what is the 14. It doesn't matter. Remember that the essential is tyrosine. Here is the one you need. Tryptophan for the pineal and sleep. And you can go through all of these, which I've done in one of my other lectures. How have we gotten so far away from this good constitution, this great adrenal health? And this is another PDF that Lynn put in for you. If you have any trouble getting these, I'm happy to send it to you. So you can contact me, jantel52@aol.com. Is this the caffeine issue in the world? The #1 drug in the world. Americans are big on caffeine. Yeah, the big could even be bigger. 90% get a jolt. So, and you can read this article of, now, am I bearing down on caffeine? Am I condemning caffeine? No, it's the amount. It's the amount and the intensity of caffeine and these other drinks, Red Bull, I'm not picking on that, but these other stimulating drinks, even too much tea with caffeine. And to understand this, which I've read from this ad nauseum to you, is this book. If you want to really clear up your energy levels, read this book, read Judith DeCava's article, and understand that you have to back away from caffeine. Because if you're constantly whipping your adrenals, they can never regain their strength. So, and this from Wikipedia that I put in here, again, emphasizes that what I just said, the hormones for the adrenals are derived from the amino acid tyrosine, are part of the fight or flight response initiated by the sympathetic nervous system. Here's this relationship again. The specialized ganglia of the sympathetic nervous system lacking distinct synapses, instead secretions directly into the blood. Also, this is why I put this in for all of you. It is also the main source of dopamine. What? Oh, I thought for Parkinson's. Remember, I did a talk on Parkinson's. I didn't put this in. But this amino acid, tyrosine, hold on, let me just mute all. Oh, there it goes. This amino acid tyrosine is a main source of this neurotransmitter that is so essential to the hypothalamus, is so essential to anyone with neurological shaking or Parkinsonian symptomatology, any type. Here it is again. Now, why are we missing it? Because we do not get enough tyrosine in our diet. Cooked meat, where are you going to get it? It's mainly the source is red meat, but people overcook it. The adrenal cortex has these hormones from cholesterol. Of course, we've already discussed that. Some cells belong to the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So here is that connection of the three. And see if there's, oh yes, other cortical cells produce androgens. So now you're probably thinking, well, how does he tie this into the gonads? Here it is. Other cortical steroids produce androgens, testosterone, while some regulate water and electrolyte concentrations by aldosterone, another adrenal hormone. So you can get into the weeds with that, which is fine. It's good to study that and understand it. But the most important thing is to understand what nutrition that we need. Now, I put in a section here on DHEA, and that is because DHEA is, in my opinion, very misused. You should never take DHEA if you don't need it. If you do need it, you need to provide the body with all of the other supports for the adrenals while taking DHEA. And I've had practitioners have this discussion. Well, I just took them off everything, Joan. Just put them on DHEA. Never, never do that. You can't just give somebody a synthetic chemical without the backing of all the factors. Remember what Lee said. That is a gospel truth. That is a true principle of nature. You have to have the vitamin, the mineral, and the like protein. It's fine to use this. But if your blood is normal in DHEA, never take it. Never take it. So you can read this through, because what happens with people that don't need it and take it, they eventually become exhausted. And again, our beloved Judith DeCava, this tremendous article from 1997 on DHEA. She spells it out for you. And again, that is in your PDFs. And what about our young people? You know, they're in the crossfire of much anger and conversations and challenges with school these days. How do we support their adrenals? Unexplained tantrums in children, temper fits in adults, and craving for excitement. What do we call them? Adrenal junkies, generally as being of this ideology. What do we do for these people, for these children? Catalin. What does catalin have in it? It has all the essential vitamins and most minerals, but it also has liver, spleen, kidney, and adrenal. So don't forget about catalin. The children's chewable catalin isn't as potent because it has the raspberry or the strawberry flavoring in it. All natural, of course, no sugar added. Concentrate, but it does have adrenal in it. And so my granddaughter plays soccer, and I've gone to some of her, and of course, playing soccer, as you know, you get really fatigued. It's at least a 2-hour game, and by the end of the second hour, they're wasted. And she's been taking the catalin, 6 of them, the chewable, before she plays. She said, "Poppy, I'm not as tired." Good. So when you look at cortisol regulation, this is also from my book, then you're looking at working with not only the adrenals. Here it is. It's in the simplex F or M. That should be in there. Oh, Lynn, you should make a note of that. It should be simplex F, simplex M, or adrenaline. Oh, we caught that. There's an herb in there, tribulus, which is coming back online, I think in November. A little bit of iodine. And also, but here with cortisol regulation, you want to address the brain, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the pineal. And that's what this product is for. So many have worked supporting just the adrenals alone to regulate cortisol, and others just use the herbs. Now, tribulus has a great reputation for regulating cortisol, but this is the one that particularly in women as they go through menopause. But you cannot ignore the whole picture. You have to tie in the brain's relationship with the adrenals. Very important. And this ties in with circadian rhythm, of course. And how does it do that? Through the pineal. And you've heard this. If you haven't heard my pineal discussion, you should read it. The pineal works in conjunction with the adrenals. It secretes norepinephrine, adrenaline, and that's how it stimulates the production of melatonin. There it is. So this is the relationship. Without the adrenals, everyone, without healthy adrenals or good adrenal function, we don't sleep well. And that's the other sign. I talked to you about the swelling in the hands. That's great. Before a meal with a lot of salt in it, with a lot of sodium in it, people swell up. But also ask your clients, how is your sleep? I ask everyone, how much water do you drink? How's your sleep? Are you happy? How's your coping skills? What do you mean by that? No. But here is what is so important, that good adrenal function. And remember, I read once, and I'm still trying to find that in a lifetime, everyone, now I could be wrong, but I did read this, and I'm still looking for that study. You only secrete 1/4 of a teaspoon of adrenaline in a lifetime. Think about that. But secrete you must in order to make melatonin. So you get clients that they want to take synthetic melatonin. They're struggling with their sleep chronically, but you never fix. And these people tend to be the people that have trouble, challenges with focus, with being able to rest and digest. They're too sympathetic dominant, the type A personality, the warrior, the person that they just can't get organized. That's all ties in with healthy adrenal function. And simple question, how's your sleep? So I put this in because of its relationship to that hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis. So pituitrophin for sure, and I'll get to that in a second. And of course, many have said and used different protocols for hot flashes. This is a big one. This is a big one. Because when a woman goes through menopause, the function of the ovaries abate. They lessen. They don't go completely dormant, by the way. There's always some functioning of the ovaries and estrogen. But the primary responsibility at that time goes on to the adrenals. 30% of estrogen production, the adrenals then become, if they're burned, responsible for, if they're burned out, they're weakened, they're challenged. And that's why if you take this at the time of menopause, there is usually a loss of ovarian hormone, which inhibits the sympathetic nervous system. Without this inhibitor, in other words, what happens to a woman if they don't have the relationship between the ovaries, the adrenals, and the pituitary, if that's not sound, if that's not well established, if that's not functioning well, then the person becomes sympathetic dominant all the time. Because it is the ovaries, then partly then the adrenals during this time that help work with the pituitary that monitors that autonomic nervous system to chill out. Without this inhibitor, rise is given to sympathetic atonia, where the splenic blood, the internal blood, instead of staying internal, goes to the periphery. If that elk was chasing me, my blood would not be it wouldn't be staying so inside and relaxed. It would be moving to the periphery to get me the hell out of there. That's sympathetic. I would become fight or flight, sympathetic, causing typical hot flashes, accompanied by disturbances in calcium metabolism. Now that's another whole conversation, but we're not having that today. So you can read this through. I put this in so you can read this through about the relationship between the sex hormones and the adrenals as well. The adrenals act as a messenger whereby the pituitary accomplishes many of its effects. Well, wait a minute. So the pituitary regulates digestion. Oh, the adrenals are a messenger for that? The pituitary helps with musculoskeletal disorders. Oh, the adrenals help with that. Inflammation. When someone's injured or they have joint issues. You know, so think of what the pituitary does, but without that, the adrenals, you're not going to get that sound functioning relationship. And so Dr. Lee, in, of course, his brilliance, said, well, let's put these together in formulation. And you've heard me talk about these. I'm not going to belabor this, but very important product for a lot. Drenatrophin, ovotrophin, thightrophin, pituitrophin. When women after 50 I put all women on this, and sometimes before, if they're struggling with their female cycles. Same with the men. We don't give enough tribute to supplements for men. They're not good supplements takers by and large, but they need it. Otherwise, they become couch potatoes. They end up with prostate issues. They end up putting a lot of visceral fat on because they don't have good endocrine function, especially adrenal function. No, I'm not interested. I don't want to do that. I had my daughter and my new grandson here for 2 weeks. And I'll tell you, I kept up with them. I was proud of myself. A new baby that's, you know, constantly needs attention. New babies are 24/7, helping them move around and travel. And but if a man at 70 years old doesn't have the get up and go, they can't keep up with 30-year-olds. Can't do it. And again, with this relationship between the adrenals and the pancreas. This is all your diabetics, all of your work with inflammation, as far as any type of aberrant cells, the formation of aberrant cells, cellulitis, scar tissue, it all ties in between the adrenals and the pancreas in relationship to inflammation. That's why, what do they give? They give insulin. They give, they give cortisone, and maybe they give insulin as well. They artificially are trying to keep the body afloat. And of course, this is the product that would have, again, the adrenotrophin with the pancreatrophin and the pituitary in particular. Great product. The last piece we want to look at is this relationship, and this really addresses aging, between the balance of the kidneys and the adrenals. They work interchangeably, and that article I gave you in the very beginning, you'll see that the kidneys play, the adrenals play a huge part in the regulation of sodium and potassium. Younger people, they never notice it unless they get into a crisis of some kind. But after 50, everyone watch the swelling in the hands, the puffiness of the face. And even at menstruation time, ovulation, young women will get this. They get all puffed up. That is an adrenal issue primarily in relationship to the pituitary gland. Normally, the endocrine glands, along with the kidneys, regulate the pH of the blood. Need I say more? And so many over the years have really made part of what they do with their clients of checking their pH. But without good endocrine, without good adrenal function and kidneys, you can't regulate it. Just as the pancreas with its insulin regulates the blood sugars, the sex glands, along with the adrenals, seem to be the main endocrine glands involved, particularly after menopause and male climacteric, male menopause or andropause. There may be a serious change in the body's economy whereby acid-base disorders developed, which may be aggravated, acid-alkaline, we should say, and not caused by dietary circumstances, just as diabetes is aggravated by high blood sugar. So as we age, and look at what products he has here: kidney protomorphogen, adrenal protomorphogen, and again, thyroid protomorphogen, because these endocrine glands regulate everything. So, and of course, the product, if you're checking pH, if they're too alkaline, this is the product to use. Allergies, of course, and other things. So I'm not going to go into these, but this all ties in with that sodium potassium balance and adrenal function. So this is one that I recommend for my clients. There's a lot of sea salts out there. Don't use just table salt. Get the Celtic or a good quality salt or potassium. You must have enough. You can have too much salt, sodium in your body, and you can have too much imbalance of potassium too. So it is all about the balance. And this is your potassium source, the organically bound minerals now. Now, I've put this in here about adrenal disorders for your reading. Much of what I've already talked about, because this is tied in, as I say, blood sugar, pancreas, thyroid, anterior pituitary, liver, and he goes on and on. Gut dysbiosis and adrenal disorders. Wow, I never thought of that. We talked about suppressed immune, that immune alliance, gastric and duodenal issues, bone density in the adrenals, depression, insomnia. So you can look at all of that. And the other is this area of hypo and hypertension, high blood pressure, low blood pressure. And this is a great little write-up. I forgot where that came from, but these are from my personal archives and notes, which I've tried over the years to get to all of you. So you have everything that I have. And before I leave this world, you will have everything that I have. And keep these. Don't get rid of these. These are very important information. So you can go through what to avoid with hypotension and hypertension. I could spend an hour just on these, which we're not going to do. And again, we don't talk much about, that's why I put this in here today. And we're going to, my next talk, which will be October, Thursday, October 7th, I'm going to do a bit on cardiovascular. I've already done a talk on high blood pressure, but low blood pressure, I get calls on this where they need more calcium and holding calcium in their blood with the D. They need this adrenal support. Now, this is where you would not use G. You don't want to relax. You want to build the integrity of the vascular structure so they're not so flaccid. And there's your Cyruta Plus. Collinsonia root also. But then you focus on these others, thyroid, handling, regulating calcium. So you get someone with hypotension, it's a real problem for them. And of course, the number one product to bring up that tonification, those tonification levels at the vascular level, but all the tissues, is Cataplex B Core. And again, to finish, this is a great article on adrenal health and explaining what different herbs do in relationship to the adrenals. So you can read this through, and they also go into all of the MediHerb products. So this is, Withania is now ashwagandha complex, by the way. So just remember that. Withania and ashwagandha, there it is there, ashwagandha, the same herb. So rhodiola ginseng, and you can look at all of these. And in my liquid blends, if you have people that don't mind herbal blends, you can, you could really get into, for adrenal health, these are tremendous. Now, MediHerb has an adrenal tonic that you can use, But if you want to use my blend that are a bit stronger, there's your ashwagandha, again in liquid form, Romania, which honors kidney function. This is the queen of herbs for the kidneys, and Korean ginseng. Well, let me just read you a little bit about Korean ginseng. Expensive, yes. Effective, yes. So now remember, when I read you something on herbs, these are from the pharmacopoeia. This would be equivalent to the FDA in Europe and Australia and other parts of the world. Whatever they claim, they have to have scientific studies. The pharmacological effect of Korean ginseng identified by modern science includes, get this list. I was impressed, I forgot. Improve brain function. Maybe I should get on this blend. Pain relieving effects. Preventative effects against tumors, as well as anti-tumor activity. Now, they can't make that claim unless there's studies. Enhanced immune function, anti-diabetic effects, enhanced liver function, adjusted blood pressure, anti-fatigue and anti-stress effects, and improve disorder of sexual function, as well as anti-aging effects. That's a lot for one herb. So this particular blend, now if a person can't afford the liquid Korean ginseng, you can use the eleuthero, which is Siberian ginseng. It's not as, and I don't know the attributes of eleuthero. You could look them up, but they are good. That used to be called Siberian ginseng, but it's not accurate. So very important. And then the other blend that I recommend for, it's very similar to the adrenal blend, except there's one difference. Still ashwagandha, still Romania, and then my wonderful tried and true Damiana. Now, how would you know to use this one, the Vitality blend over the adrenal blend? Okay, here's how you know. Low energy, especially sex drive, use the Vitality blend because Damiana is an aphrodisiac primarily. And if they're really depressed, they're sad, their bodies are sad, they are sad. That's why I ask clients, are you happy? That tells me what herb or what nutrient I should use. It's big. Or you could say, well, they come in and they say, Doc, I'm aging fast. I'm just aging. Then you'd use, or I just need something to sustain me so I don't age fast. This is your Korean ginseng. Used for thousands of years, by the way. So I'm not sure about Damiana. So the last two things I'm going to leave with you in relationship to adrenal function is walking. Now, I've given you this article once before, but if you encourage your clients in lifestyle, if that's part of your practice, if that's part of what you emphasize with them, they're not just coming in, getting adjusted and leaving. That's fine. But you have conversations with people for sure. Walking an hour, 30 to 60 minutes a day. Now, people will rationalize and say, well, they say only, so many hours a week or 2.5 days a week. No, every day, everyone, every day. Lowers stress. This is so important for adrenal health. And I can't emphasize it enough. And then, of course, the other, this is a whole webinar from a MediHerb on sleep and the immune system, but she talks about adrenal function in here as well. There is probably no other endocrine gland. I'm going to leave this thought with you. There is probably no other endocrine gland which lends itself so readily to biochemical interpretation as that of the adrenals. On a clinical basis, many indications have been given to show adrenal involvements. And this is how I started today. The essence of how the endocrine system works in harmony is embodied, how much it is involved. There's more information on adrenal function than anything else that I could ever give you in one lecture with PDFs as the adrenals. In these cases, the progress of treatment may well depend upon a thorough understanding of the physiology concerned in relationship to changes in body chemistry. So this is a great book to get from Saline River Press, The Introduction to Protomorphology, if you want to even go deeper. So thank you all for being on. And very good. I did this in 1 hour and 20 minutes. Wonderful. Nice to be with you today. I'm going to shut the recording off and then I'll take any questions or discussions. Let me just shut this off. Stop recording.